Voting isn't just going to the polls anymore on Election Day. Options like early voting, mail-in voting, and ballot drop boxes are available to more voters and are growing in popularity. How to Vote is a tool created by Democracy Works, and it breaks down the options your state offers by forecasting a ballot, empowering you to decide where and when to vote. Democracy works best when we all vote, but misinformation and confusion about election procedures have resulted in low voter turnout. How to Vote takes the guesswork out of the voting process. It is easy to use and helps folks from all over the country overcome many of the process barriers to voting. It is committed to helping you vote no matter what. You can use the How to Vote tool to sign up for election reminders, see what's on your ballot, get step-by-step assistance requesting your mail ballot, explore your options for returning your mail-in ballot, check your voter registration status, and find your local polling site, and make sure that you have an appropriate ID to bring with you. Decide when and where you'll vote this year at howto.vote.
Hello and welcome to the formal review. Today, we will be looking at the 2018 film, At Eternity's Gate. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the review.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the formal review. This is episode 31. Now, before I get started, I do want to say there may be some spoilers with this review, but I always do my best to keep the discussion vague so not to ruin the movie for you. But if you really don't care about that, keep listening. At Eternity's Gate is a biographical film about the final years of Vincent van Gogh's life. It's directed by Julian Schnabel, I'm probably mispronouncing that, from a screenplay written by him and Louis Kugelberg and Jean-Claude Carrier. Apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. It stars Willem Dafoe, Rupert Friend, Oscar Isaac, Mads Mikkelsen, Matthew Almeric, Emmanuel Singer, and Niels Aderstrup. This film looks at Van Gogh, played by Dafoe, and his self-imposed exile in southern France. He goes there to find this way of looking at life in a more pleasant viewing. Paris to him was always this kind of dark and gloomy area, whereas the countryside was a lot more friendly, a lot more colorful. Honestly, that's as much plot as I can give you without ruining the film too much for you. It's a very simple film in regard to the plot. This film looks amazing. And the reason why is because the director, he brings this kind of feeling to the film that you're essentially within a painting. As the viewer, you're kind of seeing this man's life through one of his paintings, which is almost really how we know a lot about him. So much so that when they cast Dafoe as Van Gogh, he moves toward how he looked in one of his paintings. This man died at the age of 37. Dafoe is actually 63. But here's the thing about that. He still fits perfectly into this cast. And this is because the entire film is shot in a way that really makes you feel that you are in one of Van Gogh's paintings. And that, honest to me, is absolutely beautiful. You can really see how much Van Gogh's paintings are in this film. From the style of how this movie was filmed, images that the director uses, and honestly costumes as well. That was done superbly. And really the cinematography in this film is, the short sighted is utterly fantastic. Some of the best cinematography that I've seen all year. This piece of work is just a marvel to see on screen. There's a lot of contrast with colors, whether it's black and white or the vibrant of yellows or blues. And when it comes to how this film really looks, just from a, how do you put it, visual aesthetic, it just looks beautiful. Similarly, the cinematography I think is really, really great because it really gets you in the mind of this man. It doesn't answer all the questions of who he was, but it gets you thinking, is this man crazy? Or is he just somebody who's unappreciated in his time? And you see the appreciation toward Van Gogh's work because the visuals are filmed. The director filmed this basically in a handheld type of camera, so he was able to move in many different ways, long shots of dialogue between characters. It's so interesting because when you look at Van Gogh's paintings, a lot of it is like long strokes. So it's very interesting to see this type of painting aesthetic put into a film, which I really enjoyed. And it really makes sense because the director himself comes from a painting background. I don't know too much about his painting background, but you can really see how this film is almost a painting to him. It's really this love letter to this artist from another artist, and the passion really is there by the director. And this goes so much into even the music. I think the music works really well with the film because there's a few scenes where Van Gogh is in his mind and he's painting exactly what he sees. But then the music stops and somebody from the outside is yelling at him for whatever reason. In one scene, it's this group of school children come and start asking questions, and he's kind of feeling bombarded, but there's not really much music going on in the scene. It feels more aggressive because his peaceful mindset is getting disturbed. He just wants to sit there and paint. He doesn't want to answer questions. This choice to do this with the music as well, I thought was, again, brought you into how Van Gogh was thinking at the time, and it really brings you into the character. Willem Dafoe has been known for doing many types of roles. I mean, one of his more famous roles is obviously the Green Goblin in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. He's also done the Boondock Saints film, The Last Temptation of Christ. And he's obviously had a very long career of very good films. Now, really, this is probably the most impressive that I've ever seen him. To say that this man is able to really knock this role out of the park is honestly short-sighting it, because he is Van Gogh. Even though he's clearly not mid-30s in this film, it doesn't matter because he's able to tap into this maybe crazy, maybe unappreciated person just fantastically. There's not really a lot of dialogue in this film, and there's a lot of scenes that just have music of Dafoe walking down a road or walking through a field. But he is really able to capture the torture that is going on in his head between the idea of what is being asked of him or him going down his own road. You can see this battle going back and forth in between these two choices, and this type of battle is, I think, going on at a constant time, and we're hearing his thoughts throughout the film. And Willem Dafoe, again, I think he is amazing in this film. He really gets into the character. Now, the Van Gogh as a person, that the way this film takes him is actually not in a typical biopic type of film. This really is just trying to get you to get into the man's point of view. And it's not really telling you about his history of who he is. It's not a historical film. It's not telling you what's going on around the world around him. It's not about these huge achievements that this guy did at this specific event in the world. No, it's more really just telling you a story of a man. And that was really refreshing for me. And like I said, it's kind of this response from another artist to Van Gogh's paintings, and you see that within the cinematography, and you really see how much this film really captures the idea of Van Gogh and who he really was. When you know these quotes that he actually said, and how the director takes these quotes and essentially puts them into the film. For example, admire as much as you can. Most people do not admire enough. Always take many walks and keep your love of nature, for that is the true way to understand art and more. Painters understand and love her and teach us to see her. There are many times in this film where he legitimately is just going out into the countryside and painting trees. In comparison to what his friend Gauquin, played by Isaac, who tries to paint more portraits and more pictures of people, not pictures of things. And I thought that was a very interesting aspect to this film, because he's legitimately saying there's much more in nature that we really appreciate. Looking into where Van Gogh's paintings come into history, he's technically a post-impressionist, but there's a lot of overlap in regard to impressionism. He's painting a lot of nature and a lot of things that he sees, but his style is very different, more done in a very quick pace, and him trying to get it out all at once in comparison to doing it very slowly. As he quotes, he wanted to paint something internal which we seek to give vibrations of our coloring. And the film really captures and amplifies his color pattern. Another quote by Van Gogh is, "A greater madness is the best art." So here's the thing. There are moments in this film that really have you questioning his sanity and ability to function in the world. If you look at a lot of greatness when it comes to certain things, a little dash of crazy, but then again, what is crazy? Look at certain films that have come out just in the past 40 years. There's a lot of films that weren't appreciated in their time. And then nowadays, when we go back and look at them, they're marvels. It's the same thing with Van Gogh. He wasn't appreciated in his time, but now we look back and everybody knows his sunflower paintings. Everybody knows his Starry Night paintings. I mean, these are paintings that are iconic now. And I think that that's kind of a interesting concept to really wrap your mind around, because things that people just do on their day-to-day, some people may not agree with them. But does that mean that they're not going to make an impact on society as they get older? No, not at all. No one can foresee the future. No one knows what's going to impact more, whether you take a bite of bread or you eat an egg in the morning. That's very obviously mundane when it comes to it, but it's one of those things that you don't know what the future is going to hold. This film is very, very good. You have some great acting, great directing, great filmmaking. Now, there are some choices that I do feel weren't the best, and this is very, very minor to me. One of them is the choice to go in between French and English. It jumps around between the two languages and doesn't really give you any indication why. It didn't really make sense why some of the locals were speaking French with our main characters in one scene and then a following scene speaking English with an accent, or vice versa. And really, for me, that was the only thing that really bothered me. But I can see a lot of people complaining about the film's overall art. And I mean that nothing really happens. There's no big action scene, no really big moments. But to me, I look at this entire film as a moment to stand out, not just one specific moment. This isn't a film that's going to give you a lot of intense dialogue about the meaning of life. This is really a love letter to Van Gogh. And for me, because of its relatively short runtime of under 2 hours, I thought it worked perfectly within that. Some people may think that it may run a little long, but I could really not recommend this film more, especially if you're an art person. If you love art, you will enjoy this film. I was fully impressed by this film. Again, the only thing for me was the language thing. Otherwise, I would have said that this film really was perfect. This film really is a piece of art. It's lovely to look at. I feel that I know Van Gogh a little bit more than I did going in, and that's what the film was trying to do, and that succeeds immensely. And that's why I would rate this film a 4.5 out of 5 bow ties. But that may change to a 5. And I do want to say that this is one of my favorite films of the year. Where it falls into the top 10, I'm not sure yet, but we'll be getting that list out shortly. Now let me know what you thought of the film. Hit me up on social media. My URL is all the same. On Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, it's at The Formal Review. You can also check out Box Office Buzz. That's Buzz with 1 Z. They pretty much have all the news about movies, TV shows, video games, and you can find it all in one source. I also do some written and retrospective reviews on there, so go check those out. Now, I want to thank everyone for tuning in once again. I really appreciate it. Talking about movies is a big hobby of mine, and I really enjoy just being able to talk about them with you all listeners, and I wouldn't do it if no one was listening, so I really appreciate that. For those who are helping on a financial basis, I really appreciate that as well. It really shows how much you all support me. For those who want to support me financially, please go to anchor.com/the-formal-review and click support this podcast. I would really appreciate it. Any contribution is welcome. So you never miss an episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcast service, whether that's iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify. And I'm always looking to improve and grow, so please leave a review and I'll check that out, and I'll definitely make those improvements as necessary. Now, as with all reviews, there is music in the background. I do not own the rights to this music. It's mostly due to bring you into the ambiance of this film, and especially a film like this, it's really getting you into Van Gogh's head. This episode's music is from the At Eternity's Gate original motion picture soundtrack, composed by Tatiana Lizovskaya, released by Film Tracks Limited on November 16th, 2018. Thank you all for, again, tuning in to The Formal Review, and until next time, I'll see you at the movies. Take care, everyone.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Formal Review. We hope you'll join us again.